And big news coming in from West Asia. Lebanon-based Hezbollah group has announced large-scale rocket and drone launches towards Israel. This comes right after the Israeli military launched preemptive strikes in Lebanon after detecting preparations for large-scale attacks by Hezbollah on Israel. Hezbollah says its attack is an initial response to a top commander's killing. We're talking about the killing of its commander, Fuad Shukra. The militant group has said that it began an air attack with a large number of drones targeting deep into Israel. Hezbollah militants have also targeted enemy positions and barracks and Iron Dome platforms with rockets. It fired more than 320 Katyusha rockets targeting 11 military bases in northern Israel. With this, Hezbollah has said that it has completed the first phase of its attack. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has declared a 48-hour state of emergency across the country. Gallant also briefed his U.S. counterpart on the strike, saying that they are closely monitoring the developments in West Asia. U.S. President Joe Biden has directed U.S. officials to continuously communicate with Israel, and National Security spokesperson has reassured that U.S. will keep supporting Israel's right to defend itself. The Israeli military has said that its fighter jets attacked thousands of Hezbollah rocket launchers in South Lebanon that were aimed at northern and central Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed that he is determined to do everything to protect the country and return the residents of the north to their homes.
אנחנו נחושים לעשות הכל כדי להגן על המדינה שלנו, להחזיר את תושבי הצפון בבטחה לבתיהם, ולהמשיך לקיים כלל פשוט. מי שפוגע בנו, אנחנו פוגעים בו.
Netanyahu is currently holding a security cabinet meeting that is underway. Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, has urged foreign counterparts to back Israeli action against Iran and its proxies. Further, Israel's Ben Gurion airport had delayed departing flights and redirected arrivals to other airports. Flights have now been resumed, and this comes just after the Israeli Defense Forces warned Israelis to expect incoming missiles and drones launched by Hezbollah. Israel's military spokesperson Daniel Hagari has said that Hezbollah will soon fire rockets and possibly missiles and UAVs towards Israel. Cross-border attacks between Hezbollah and Israel have escalated in the past couple of months. On June 18th, Hezbollah had published a video from one of its reconnaissance drones flying over northern Israel, including the Haifa port. Now this video appeared to put out a message to Israel that Hezbollah has an eye on Israel and access to most of its security installations. Then in July, Hezbollah had published an almost 10-minute-long video showing footage of 17 military sites in the Israeli-occupied Syrian Golan Heights. The video showed Israeli Iron Dome batteries, command centers, and also ammunition depots. These recent warnings indicate that Hezbollah had been bracing for a wide-scale attack against Israel for quite some time now. And well, for more on this and to discuss all that is happening in West Asia, we're now being joined by Dr. Meir Javed Nafar. He is a professor of Iranian politics at Richmond University in Israel, and he's also West Asia expert. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Now, Israel has said that it does not seek a full-scale war with Hezbollah. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has said that it has completed the first phase of the attack, and it has further outlined that the military operations against Israel will take some time. How significant are these escalations at this point of time, and what does it mean in sort of a broader context, what is happening on the border and beyond in West Asia?
Well, it seems that this morning Israel carried out the biggest preventative strike against an upcoming attack since the 6 Days War. According to Israeli news sources such as Yediot Achronot, thousands of Hezbollah launchers were destroyed. because they were about to be used to attack hundreds of military and strategic sites in Israel this morning at 5 a.m. When people talk about military sites, we can guess military airports, military bases, but strategic sites, it is very possible that Hezbollah was aiming at attacking main Israeli power stations and Israeli industrial infrastructure in the country. And this was, and the fact that Israel used 100 aircraft to attack these targets before they attacked Israel goes to show that, first and foremost, a major strike against the state of Israel was thwarted. And it also shows that Hezbollah was going to take a step which, if it would have been allowed to carry out, would have led to a major war in this region. Attacking hundreds of military and strategic sites in Israel is declaration of war, nothing short of it. We would have seen a major war between Israel and Lebanon, and quite possibly also a war between Israel and Iran. So it seems that actually a disaster was thwarted today, avoided today with this attack. What does it mean for the region? But I would say actually one of the consequences is on the talks with Hamas. It seems that Mr. Sinwar was apprehensive about reaching a deal with Israel because he was waiting for the Hezbollah attack, hoping that it would weaken Israel's hands in the negotiations. And I think the attack this morning and the developments so far, I have to emphasize so far, are likely to have created a sense of concern among the Hamas leadership.
Right, Dr. Mir, just news just coming in at this point of time. It's a statement issued by the Islamic resistance in Lebanon, and I'm going to quote here. Indeed, we will take the retribution from the criminals by the grace of the God. All offensive drones were launched at their designated times and from all their positions. They crossed the Lebanese-Palestinian border towards their intended targets from multiple routes. Thus, our military operation for today has been completed. That's the statement by the Hezbollah group, which has also said that the first phase of their attack against Israel is over. I'm again quoting the statement. It says that the enemy's claims regarding its preemptive actions, the targets it allegedly hit, and its supposed disruption of the resistance attack are baseless and contradict the facts on the ground. These claims will be refuted in a speech by the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, who is also scheduled to give out an address later today. I want to seek your assessment of that statement coming out of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah.
Most probably it's damage control by Hezbollah. This is not an organization that tells the truth. This is not an organization that wants the truth to be held, to be said. How do we know this in Israel? Because we can see, and every reporter who goes to Lebanon can see and can report that any Lebanese person who speaks against Hezbollah and who wants Hezbollah's power reduced, in most cases, in overwhelming number of cases, gets threatened by Hezbollah. Because Hezbollah does not want its position to be challenged in Lebanon. It will not want the truth about its corruption and abuse of power to be told in Lebanon. Therefore, when the same organization puts out this statement saying everything is okay, A-okay, nothing happened today, nothing major happened today, I have great difficulty believing that they are telling the truth. I think Hezbollah now has to reconsider its decision. I would like to inform the viewers of WION and all our friends in India that Hamas initiated the attack unilaterally against Israel on the 7th of October. Hezbollah, much like Hamas, unilaterally initiated an attack on the 8th of October against the state of Israel. Both these organizations have started war against Israel. It's not going well for both of them. And they're going to have to look for a way out of this war. And I think Mr. Nasrallah, judging by his speech today, will try to, possibly predicting what he's going to say. He's probably going to say that, look, we achieved all our goals, we don't want war, but we're going to continue supporting Hamas. But I think the situation, I think the facts on the ground speak differently, and Hezbollah and both Hamas really need to come to their senses and to stop this war, and so does the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu. But we will, despite the fact that many people in Israel are opposed to Mr. Netanyahu's policies, we still view Hamas and Hezbollah as the enemies of not just Israeli military, but of Israeli civilians, and we will defend ourselves against them no matter who is in charge of this country.
Right, Dr. Meir, I wanted to seek your assessment of the claims and the counterclaims that are coming in at this point of time, with Israel saying that it had targeted Hezbollah first, and Hezbollah clearly refuting those claims. Also, shed some light more on the fact that this was a brief stint of airstrikes between Israel and the Hezbollah group. Both the sides had contained the escalation. Do you sense some red lines that both the warring sides did not want to cross?
Well, I think both keep saying that they don't want war, but what we're seeing is war, to be honest. I mean, yes, the war could be much more extensive. Hezbollah wishing to attack hundreds of missile sites in Israel, that's war. Israel sending 100 aircraft to attack targets, to attack thousands of launchers in Israel. They don't in Lebanon. They don't say what kind of launchers. Was it drone or missile or both? I don't know. So I'm not going to say. I'm not going to presume anything for your viewers. But Israel attacking thousands of launchers in Lebanon. Well, that's also war. So both sides are actually in war but while stating that they're not, and while stating they don't want war. So this is kind of, I think this is perception management, because they both know that the public in Israel and Lebanon are currently stretched to the limits by their domestic challenges in Israel. We are worried sick about our ongoing war in Gaza, especially the 100 Israeli hostages that are there. Lebanon has been turned into a failed state despite having some of the most brilliant business people in the world, and in the country is a basket case that can't even provide electricity for its citizens because of Hezbollah's monopoly of power over everything and its dictatorial rule. So both sides are trying to say we don't want war, but while we're actually fighting what seems like almost war, or it is war. What will happen in the future is really, I think, the leadership of both countries, especially I would say the leadership of Hezbollah, who is the de facto of Lebanon, won't stop this war. Israel did not start. I'm saying this as a critic of Mr. Netanyahu. We did not start this war. Hezbollah started this war. And I think Mr. Nasrallah needs to come to his senses and end this war, which has brought nothing but misery to his people, and it's caused more than 30,000 Israelis to leave their homes in northern Israel.
There have also been deaths in Lebanon, but please stay with us. I would just like to tell our viewers about the claims that Hezbollah has made regarding the targets, the sites that it has targeted so far, starting with the Meron base, the Nev Zev bunker, Gathon base, Al Zawra bunkers, Al Sahil base, Kela barracks in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, Yoav barracks in the Syrian Golan Heights as well, Nafa base in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, Yarden base again in the Syrian Golan Heights, and Yent Zetem base. Lastly, Ramoth Naftali barracks. These are the sites targeted by Hezbollah in Israel just a short while ago. Dr. Meir, if you can hear me, I want to also seek your assessment on the status of the Ben Gurion airport. The flights were stalled there till 10 a.m. local time, and it is now being extended with a 48-hour emergency also being announced in Israel.
That's a very good question, to be honest with you. Yes, I heard something. Of course, I trust the news in Israel, what you're saying, and the news in Israel. It is concerning him. It's very important for Ben Gurion Airport to get back to his flights as soon as possible. And I actually heard before, maybe it's been changed now, that Ben Gurion Airport is actually reopened because this is our only major airport to the world. This is our only major aerial link to the world. So this is something that is, of course, very important to the state of Israel, and I think Israel will want to get back. Will want Ben Gurion Airport to start functioning as soon as possible again.
Also, the Israeli Prime Minister just finished the cabinet meeting that he held after the short brief of airstrikes between Israel and Hezbollah, and he has vowed to do everything to ensure that the security of Israelis, and has said that those who hurt us, we will hurt them back. How do you assess this statement? Because just a short while ago, the Israeli Foreign Minister, Israel Katz, said that Israel is not looking to escalate a war or a full-scale war in West Asia.
Well, I think, first and foremost, it's Prime Minister Netanyahu, it's his job, he's doing his job, telling Israelis that Israel had to take this measure, had to undertake this preventative attack against Hezbollah, because had we waited for Hezbollah to attack us, the damage caused would have been far higher. And to react to such a Hezbollah attack against Israel, against hundreds of military and strategic sites, would have been far costlier than the state of Israel undertaking a preventative airstrike, which seems, by what Israel is saying, has been very successful. But at the same time, we know that the United States does not want a regional war in this region. And as I already mentioned before to your respected viewers, in Israel also, people are very, we have been in a war against Gaza for the last 10 months. And I think Prime Minister Netanyahu and the government also want to tell the Israeli public that we don't want a major regional war. Therefore, both of them have put out these statements as part of their duty to the Israeli public, and also in order to manage the expectations and of our most important ally, the United States of America.
Talking about the United States of America, Israel's ally, and the point you made there, U.S. has steadily been moving Navy forces closer to the area. Reports say that the deployment includes 2 aircraft carrier groups and an attack submarine. How do you assess this, especially with U.S. President Joe Biden also saying that U.S. is closely monitoring all that is happening in West Asia at this point of time, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the U.S. military also in Israel at this point of time?
The presence of United States forces in the region at the moment, in terms of their quality, and quantity, attests to the fact that this is the largest presence of U.S. military in this region for the last number of years. The United States, headed by President Joe Biden, has provided Israel with unprecedented protection and support. And this is evident in the large number of submarines and aircraft in this region, as well as U.S. forces. At the same time, the American President Biden, whose Vice President Kamala Harris is about to go to elections, does not want a regional war. There's another factor also. There's 2 other factors. One of them is China, and the other one is China's threats against Taiwan, and the other is Russia's threats against Ukraine. President Biden does not want a regional war in the Middle East, because that would reduce the amount of diplomatic efforts and attention, as well as military resources that the United States could otherwise invest in these 2 aforementioned wars. So this is another reason, and this is why we have a visit now by the Joint Chief of Staff, if I'm not mistaken, by the United States in Israel.
The news just coming at this point of time, Dr. Meir, and for our viewers watching us, Jordan's flag carrier, Royal Jordanian, has suspended flights to Beirut on Sunday due to the current situation. The state news agency reported without clarifying the exact time frame for this suspension, and that's the news coming in at this point of time. I also want to seek your assessment on the attacks, the airstrikes which just took place. Now, Israel said that it has carried out these preemptive strikes, but let me ask you that the response, it did seem to be a lot more calibrated, because it only happened in southern Lebanon. So it does look like that Israel was being very careful in selecting the targets.
Absolutely, and another fact is here is Israel is very careful in terms of selecting targets in Lebanon, and this can the fact that compared to our attacks in Gaza, the number of Lebanese bystanders that have been killed in Israeli attacks is infinitely higher than the number of is infinitely lower. Excuse me. In the number of Lebanese that have been killed in Lebanon, in Lebanese civilians, is infinitely lower than the number of Palestinian civilians killed in Israeli attacks in Gaza. This is due to a number of reasons. Israel's fighting a force in Gaza that is hiding within buildings and in tunnels. But at the same time, it's very important but at the same time, in Lebanon, it has proven easier for Israel to target exclusively military targets in that country. Because Hezbollah, Lebanon is a bigger country, much bigger country compared to Gaza. And Hezbollah, in some cases, has been operating outside population centers. And until today, if I'm not mistaken, there have been 500, or at least 400, if not 500, targeted killings of Hezbollah people by Israeli airstrikes. So this is another way of Israel hurting Hezbollah and its military infrastructure and resources without going into a full war. And I think also Hezbollah does not want a full war because Lebanese people, unfortunately, don't even have enough electricity in their country. And a devastating war with Israel would be far more detrimental. We would suffer, absolutely. A major war between Israel and Lebanon and Hezbollah would not be easy for Israel either. But also the Lebanese people don't want war. And I think these are factors that are impacting the decisions by Israeli leadership and Hezbollah leadership in Lebanon.
Dr. Mir, now, at the time when these attacks, these airstrikes are taking place between Israel and Hezbollah, there are also ceasefire talks which are about to begin in Cairo.
Yes.
I want to seek your assessment that do you sense that these intense airstrikes between Israel and Hezbollah could perhaps torpedo efforts to forge a ceasefire deal?
That's actually an excellent question. There's been reports said this morning that the talks that Hamas has said it will not turn up to the talks, and then we've heard that another contrary report that says that the Israeli delegation is going to the talks in Cairo, if I'm not mistaken, for the talks. So it seems that one report says there are talks, and the other one says there isn't. So we have to wait and see what the outcome will be. But obviously, of course, I would like to remind you viewers that Hezbollah belongs to a military alliance, kind of military front, is a better way of putting it, consisting of Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq, Iranian-backed militia in Syria, and of course the Houthis in Yemen. And one of the reasons, according to Israeli assessment, that Mr. Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, has not been enthusiastic about reaching a deal with Israel at this moment, among other reasons, is that he's hoping and waiting for a major Hezbollah strike against the state of Israel. And and he's hoping that the results of such an attack, or he was hoping, this is what we heard yesterday, that the results of such attack would weaken Israel to such a great extent that would strengthen the hand of Hamas in the negotiations with the state of Israel over Gaza. Well, if the situation stays as it is, as we're speaking right now, and if the reports are correct that Israel destroyed thousands of launchers in Lebanon, well, it seems that Mr. Sinwar's hopes so far, and I have to emphasize so far, have not materialized, and his hand has not been strengthened in the negotiations. Nevertheless, we have to wait and see where the negotiations take us, and I think it's incumbent upon the leadership of Hamas and the leadership of Israel to show flexibility and to find a negotiated settlement to end this miserable war that has been going on for 10 months. The people of Gaza are suffering far more than us. I'm not denying that for a minute. You can't even compare the living situations in Gaza compared to Israel, even though we have 50,000 Israeli refugees inside our country. Nevertheless, this war has been terrible for us. We've lost 600 soldiers at least, and many civilians. And we have 100 Israeli civilian hostages at least in Gaza, including a baby, who have been subject to terrible conditions. Their families in Israel have not had a single night of sleep since then, and they just want them back home and this war to be ended.
Right, Dr. Mir, the situation perhaps in Gaza is also of a paramount importance and concerning at this point of time. I also want to seek your assessment on the fact that you did speak of Hezbollah being a part of a larger alliance. We were talking about the axis of resistance.
Correct.
Right. Do you think that there will perhaps be an attack by Iran or its proxies? Because just a few days ago, Iran's Revolutionary Guards chief had hinted at an imminent retaliatory attack on Israel. And after the strikes from Hezbollah on Israel, do you anticipate a larger strike from Iran and its proxies?
It is possible. That's an excellent question. It is very possible that in the next number of days, we could see attacks by other members of the Axis of Resistance Front, possibly from Iraq, possibly from Yemen, perhaps. Yes, it is possible. Iran becoming directly involved. I'm not sure at the moment Iran wants to get directly involved in the war against the state of Israel. The biggest reason being the massive presence of United States forces in this region. The number of, as I mentioned before, the number of submarines and attack aircraft in this region belonging to the United States is unprecedented over the last number of years. And the leadership of the Islamic Republic takes note of that. And I think Iran, for now, will be hesitant to attack Israel directly. Whether it will do so in the future will depend on a number of variables, such as where the war in Gaza is going, how the war between Hezbollah and Israel is going, and of course domestic issues in Iran. Getting involved in a direct war against the state of Israel is not an easy decision to make by the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei. In Iran, despite having the world's second largest gas reserves and being one of the top 10 resources of oil in the world, Iranians have power cuts in Iran's capital, Tehran, almost every day, if not every other day. This is a country that is grappling with inflation, with severe domestic challenges. Adding a cost of war, the cost of war against the state of Israel, would create an unprecedented burden on Iran's very fragile economy, which is, I think that's another reason why it's not likely that in the near future President Ayatollah Khamenei will undertake such an attack. But what will happen in the future, we'll also have to see what happens to the Hamas war and Hezbollah.
Right, Dr. Mir, thank you so much for joining us on the show with your insights. We'll, of course, be tracking all that is happening in West Asia very closely.
Thank you.